There's a number carved into the Great Pyramid that nobody can explain. If you take the perimeter of the pyramid's base and divide it by twice its height, you get 3. 1,159. That's pi, accurate to 5 decimal places, built into a structure constructed in 2560 BCE. The problem? The ancient Egyptians supposedly didn't know about pi. The mathematical constant wasn't formally defined until 2,000 years later. But there it is, permanent, precise, impossible to dismiss. And that's just the beginning. Modern scientists keep pointing new technology at the pyramids, and every single time they find something that shouldn't be there. Mathematical relationships that ancient people weren't supposed to understand. Astronomical alignments requiring knowledge they supposedly didn't have. Engineering solutions we can barely replicate today. Hidden chambers that have been sealed for 45 centuries. The pyramids aren't just tombs. They're not just monuments to dead kings. They're encoded messages. Scientific achievements disguised as architecture. Knowledge written in stone. Today, we're uncovering the hidden science inside the pyramids. Not conspiracy theories. Not ancient aliens. Real science. Verified by modern technology. Mathematics. Astronomy. Acoustics. Engineering. Things the ancient Egyptians absolutely knew but never wrote down. What secrets did they encode in 6 million tons of limestone? How did they know things they weren't supposed to know? And what haven't we found yet? Let's decode the message. Start with the impossible precision. The Great Pyramid's base covers 13 acres. That's 10 football fields. The 4 sides are each 755 feet long. And here's the thing that makes engineers lose their minds. The difference between the longest side and the shortest side is less than 2 inches. 2 inches of variation across 755 feet. That's an accuracy of 99%. The base is almost perfectly level. The southeast corner sits just half an inch higher than the northwest corner. Across 13 acres, using tools from 2500 BCE. And it's aligned to true north within 4 arc minutes. That's 1/15 of a degree. Without compasses. Without GPS. Without magnetic instruments of any kind. You cannot luck into that level of precision. That's not trial and error. That's mathematics and astronomical observation. Modern surveyors using laser levels and GPS struggle to match that accuracy. The ancient Egyptians did it with rope, wooden stakes, and their eyes. How? The most likely answer is astronomical observation. And this is where things get fascinating. The ancient Egyptians were obsessed with the stars. They had to be. Their entire calendar, their agriculture, their religion, everything depended on celestial cycles. The Nile flood came when Sirius rose with the sun. The seasons changed with stellar positions. The gods themselves lived among the stars. To find true north without instruments, they used circumpolar stars, stars that rotate around the celestial North Pole and never set below the horizon. By carefully tracking these stars and bisecting their arc of rotation, you can establish true north with stunning accuracy. Modern experiments have proven this method works. It requires patience, careful observation, and systematic record-keeping. But it delivers the precision we see in the pyramids. So they had the astronomical knowledge. That's confirmed. But here's where it gets weird. They encoded that knowledge into the structure itself. The 4 narrow shafts that extend from the king's chamber and queen's chamber aren't ventilation. That's what tour guides tell you, but it's wrong. Those shafts point to specific stars as they appeared in 2560 BCE. The southern shaft from the king's chamber aims directly at Al-Nitak, the lowest star in Orion's belt. In Egyptian mythology, Orion represented Osiris, god of death and rebirth. The pharaoh's soul was supposed to ascend to join Osiris after death. The northern shaft points at Thuban, which was the pole star 45 centuries ago. It represented the eternal, unchanging heavens, the cosmic axis around which everything rotates. The queen's chamber shafts point to Sirius, the most important star in Egyptian astronomy, representing the goddess Isis, and to Kochab in Ursa Minor. These aren't random. These are the four most significant stars in Egyptian cosmology, and the shafts aim at them with precision. But it goes deeper. The three pyramids at Giza, Khufu's Great Pyramid, Khafre's Pyramid, and Menkaur's Smaller Pyramid, aren't randomly placed. They mirror the three stars of Orion's belt. The size ratios match the brightness ratios of the stars. The slight offset of Menkaur's pyramid matches the offset of the star Mintaka. The ancient Egyptians built a map of the heavens on Earth. As above, so below. They encoded advanced astronomical knowledge into architecture that would last forever. Now, let's talk about the mathematics hidden in plain sight. We already mentioned pi. That alone is extraordinary. But there's more. The slope angle of the Great Pyramid is 84 degrees. Seems arbitrary, right? But that specific angle creates a pyramid where the ratio of the height to half the base equals the golden ratio phi, approximately 1. 618. Phi appears throughout nature. Spiral galaxies, nautilus shells, flower petals, human proportions. It's considered the most aesthetically pleasing ratio, and it shows up in art and architecture across cultures. The ancient Egyptians supposedly didn't know about phi mathematically, but it's encoded in the pyramid's fundamental proportions. Here's another one. The perimeter of the pyramid's base is 3,023 feet. If you multiply that by 43,200, you get a number very close to the Earth's circumference at the equator. The error margin is less than 0.5%. Why 43,200? That number appears repeatedly in ancient mythology and architecture worldwide. It's 600 times 72, and 72 is the number of years it takes for the Earth's axial precession to move 1 degree. It's tied to cosmic cycles. Coincidence? Maybe. But the coincidences keep piling up. The pyramid weighs approximately 6 million tons. The land surface area of Earth is approximately 6 million square miles times a billion. The pyramid's height of 481 feet multiplied by a billion approximates the distance from Earth to the Sun. Now, skeptics will correctly point out that some of these correlations depend on which units you use, and you can find numerical coincidences in any structure if you measure enough things. That's fair. But the precision and consistency of the mathematical relationships built into the pyramid suggests something more than accident. These weren't primitive people randomly stacking rocks. These were sophisticated engineers encoding knowledge into their greatest achievement. In 2017, scientists used muon radiography to scan the Great Pyramid. Muons are subatomic particles from cosmic rays that constantly rain down from space. They pass through solid matter, but dense material slows them down more than empty space. By placing detectors inside and outside the pyramid and measuring muon penetration, you can create a 3D map of the interior without drilling or destroying anything. What they found shocked the archaeological world: a massive void above the Grand Gallery, at least 100 feet long, maybe larger, completely hidden, completely inaccessible, unknown for 45 centuries. Nobody knows what's in there. Nobody knows how to access it without damaging the pyramid. Nobody even knows for sure why it exists. Some researchers think it's a construction gap, a space left to relieve stress on the Grand Gallery below. Others think it's a sealed chamber containing something significant. We won't know until we figure out how to look inside without drilling through priceless ancient architecture. But here's what blows my mind. The most studied structure in human history, examined by thousands of researchers for centuries, visited by millions of people, and we're still finding major architectural features we never knew existed. What else is in there? Let's talk about something most people never hear about: the acoustic properties. In 2018, researchers placed sensitive acoustic equipment throughout the Great Pyramid and measured how sound behaves inside. The King's Chamber resonates at 16 Hz. That's below the threshold of human hearing, but you can feel it. It's called an infrasonic frequency. Here's why that matters. 16 Hz is the exact frequency that begins to affect human consciousness. Research has shown that exposure to sounds around 16 to 18 Hz can induce feelings of awe, presence, or religious experience. It affects the human eye, causing visual distortions. It creates disorientation and heightened emotional states. Was this intentional? The King's Chamber is a granite box inside a limestone pyramid. That specific design creates acoustic resonance, and it resonates at exactly the frequency that affects human perception and consciousness. The granite itself is interesting. Granite contains high concentrations of quartz crystal. Quartz is piezoelectric. It generates electrical charge when compressed. The millions of tons of weight pressing down on the King's Chamber constantly compress that granite. Some researchers have measured unusual electromagnetic signatures in the King's Chamber. Nothing magical. Nothing powering flying saucers. But measurable variations different from surrounding areas. So you've got a ritually significant chamber that resonates at a frequency affecting consciousness and generates subtle electromagnetic fields. Accident? Or sophisticated understanding of acoustics and material properties? Here's something discovered just a few years ago using thermal imaging. In 2015, scientists used infrared cameras to scan the pyramids at sunrise. Different materials absorb and release heat at different rates. Thermal imaging can reveal hidden structures, empty spaces behind walls, or different materials. They found thermal anomalies. Specific blocks on the eastern side of the Great Pyramid that were significantly warmer than surrounding stones. The temperature difference was too large to be random variation. Something is different about those blocks. Different composition? Hollow spaces behind them? Hidden chambers? We still don't have answers. But what's really impressive is the pyramid's overall thermal properties. The desert outside swings from near freezing at night to scorching during the day. Temperature variations of 50 degrees or more. Inside the pyramid, a constant 68 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round, day and night. That's not luck. That's thermal engineering. The massive stone mass acts as thermal insulation. The ventilation shafts allow airflow that regulates temperature. The design creates passive climate control that still works 45 centuries later. Ancient Egyptians understood thermodynamics well enough to create a structure with built-in temperature regulation requiring zero energy input. Let's address the construction itself, because the science behind moving 2 million stone blocks is staggering. The average block weighs 2.5 tons. Some weigh 50 tons. The granite blocks in the King's Chamber weigh up to 80 tons. That's 160,000 pounds, heavier than a fully loaded semi-truck, and they're not at ground level. They're hundreds of feet up inside the pyramid. Recent discoveries have revealed sophisticated engineering techniques we're still figuring out. In 2014, Dutch physicist Daniel Bohn proved that wetting sand before dragging heavy objects reduces friction by up to 50%. Ancient Egyptian artwork shows workers pouring water in front of sledges carrying massive stones. We thought it was ceremonial. It was physics. Experiments with wooden levers, stone fulcrums, and counterweights have shown that small teams can lift and precisely position multi-ton blocks using simple machines and an understanding of leverage. Analysis of tool marks on the stones reveals they used copper saws with abrasive sand to cut granite. Sounds impossible. Copper is softer than granite, but the copper isn't cutting. The abrasive sand caught in the copper saw teeth does the cutting. It's slow, but it works. The construction required understanding of material properties, force distribution, load-bearing capacity, and stress management. Computer models analyzing the internal structure show it's engineered to distribute 6 million tons of weight in ways that prevent collapse. That's not primitive trial and error. That's sophisticated structural engineering. Here's what keeps me up at night. We're probably still missing things. Every new technology we point at the pyramids reveals features and properties we didn't know existed. Ground-penetrating radar has found structures beneath the Giza Plateau. LiDAR scanning has revealed subtle alignments invisible to the naked eye. Chemical analysis has traced individual stones to specific quarries. What will we discover with technologies that don't exist yet? Quantum sensors? Advanced AI analysis? Scanning methods we haven't imagined? The pyramids are like a time capsule of encoded knowledge, and we're still in the early stages of unpacking it. There are sealed doors inside narrow shafts, hidden voids behind walls, thermal anomalies without explanation. Mathematical relationships we're still analyzing. Astronomical alignments we haven't fully mapped. 45 centuries after construction, the pyramids are still keeping secrets. So, what's the real secret science of the pyramids? It's not magic. It's not aliens. It's not lost technology from Atlantis. The secret is that ancient Egyptians were brilliant scientists and engineers who understood mathematics, astronomy, acoustics, material science, and structural engineering at levels we've consistently underestimated. They didn't have our instruments, but they had patience, careful observation, systematic thinking, and accumulated knowledge passed down through generations. They understood that certain proportions were aesthetically and structurally optimal. They understood that specific angles created desired effects. They understood that materials had properties that could be exploited. They encoded this knowledge into the pyramids because they wanted it to last forever. They wanted future generations to look at their work and understand. We were sophisticated. We were advanced. We understood the cosmos and our place in it. Mission accomplished. Here's the uncomfortable question. What are we building today that will still reveal secrets in 45 centuries? We build for efficiency and short-term returns. We optimize for cost, not permanence. We create structures designed to last decades, not millennia. The pyramids were built with millennium-scale thinking. They were designed to encode knowledge in the most permanent form possible. They were built as both practical structures and philosophical statements about humanity's relationship with eternity. We have better technology than ancient Egypt, better mathematics, better materials, better understanding of physics. But do we have the vision to create something that will still challenge and inspire people 4,000 years from now? The pyramids ask us that question every day they continue standing. The hidden void hasn't been accessed, the sealed doors haven't been opened. The thermal anomalies haven't been explained. There are almost certainly chambers and features we haven't discovered yet. After 45 centuries of continuous study, the pyramids are still teaching us things, still revealing secrets, still challenging our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the greatest achievement wasn't the physical structure. Maybe it was creating a permanent mystery, a challenge to every future generation that says, "We understood things you're still figuring out." The secret science of the pyramids isn't locked in some hidden chamber waiting to be discovered. It's standing in plain sight. 6 million tons of encoded knowledge, permanent, precise, impossible to ignore, 45 centuries and counting. And we're still learning to read the message. If this revelation about the hidden science of the pyramids absolutely fascinated you, hit that subscribe button right now. We're diving deep into the mysteries and scientific achievements of the ancient world that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. New videos every week uncovering the knowledge encoded in history's greatest structures. Drop a comment. What do you think is the most mind-blowing scientific achievement hidden in the pyramids? What should we use next to study them? I read every comment, and I'm genuinely curious what you think. Ancient people weren't primitive. They were brilliant. Let's prove it together.